so much. I'm just gonna tell you that 5 years ago, I saw the future, or at least I believe I did. It was 2013, my company, AppCoin, we just released our working platform and onboarded our beta communities. And what we did, and we started off in 2012, we enabled any community, any group of people to create their own token. And you can all laugh right now because in 2013 everyone laughed at us. People were like saying, why would you need a token? Why would a community need a token? What is this all about? But actually we were heavily inspired by Bitcoin. I first learned about Bitcoin in mid-2011. And in the end of 2011, we partnered a few entrepreneurs and we set out to do this platform which would enable any community to interact with each other. So I'm going to talk to you about that in my talk. I have 50 minutes, maybe I'll make it 30. And then I want to share with you a couple of insights that I gained during these years that I've been in crypto and tokens and in the blockchain sphere. And what I've learned is that we have a lot of beliefs or assumptions that we kind of carry from the day that we're born about money. And throughout my journey, these beliefs kind of shattered as I entered the rabbit hole and researched a bit more about all these assumptions and that they're wrong. So maybe you guys went down that rabbit hole also, and I'd just like to share those insights with you. And I have a timer here, so I just want to make sure that I'm on time. Okay, so seeing the future, the Heartmoney. At the end of 2011, we started talking about money, my partners and I. And we realized that money is a tool for collaboration. And that while Bitcoin enables us as a group of people, a group of anonymous people, a group of strangers, to interact from one part of the globe to another in an anonymous way, in a cash way, most of our interactions with money are actually with people that we know, with our hairstylist, grocery, friends, poker nights, okay, all these, we are interacting with money all the time, and it doesn't necessarily need to have all the attributes that Bitcoin brought to the table. But we were very inspired by Bitcoin, because we didn't think about digital money up until then. And we started building this platform, which enabled any community. And a community is usually built of three aspects. It's a geographical community, like a neighborhood or a city. Maybe the city of Hamburg would have their own cryptocurrency in the future. A community is made of people who share the same interests, like fashion lovers or musicians. And a community is also people who share the same demographics, like students, college students, moms, or whatever. And we set out to enable all of these communities to create their own token. We were looking at Facebook, and there was like the rise of Facebook groups. And we thought that, these groups, they're interacting and they're sharing ideas, but what if we can enable them to barter with each other? So we had our first prototype community, which was called Mama's Own Market. We actually took a Facebook group. This was in, I think it was late 2012. We took a Facebook group, which had 17,000 moms, and we just told them, listen, why don't we throw in a token, let's call it the Heartmoney, and we'll see, what happens. So we took 2,000 moms at the beginning, and we threw it in a token. And it was amazing because at the beginning it was just monopoly money. It was funny money. They didn't even care about it. We gave them like 100 hearts, which were equivalent to maybe 20, 25 euros. And they started exchanging stuff, but they didn't care about it. And then as time went by, we saw that the community grew and grew. And as more people collaborated around this funny money, this Heartmoney, more moms started to engage with it. So we had 25,000 moms with 17,000 listings, from household appliances to books, to clothes, to vacations, to consulting services. And they were all accepting hearts. How did we get into that stage in which it went from funny money to exchanging hearts? And it was within a few months, actually. And that really showed us that money, you know, there's a few stages that you need to overcome in order to acknowledge that as money. And as we had, I'll talk to you about the moms in a bit soon, but then as we saw that this money is working in the hearts, we actually had other communities. So we had student communities, 150,000 students from junior and high and high schools that started to engage with their own currency, which was called girim, chalk. In Israel, we were 8 million people, so we had a nice penetration for our beta. We had fashion lovers who would trade their clothes, so they would say, listen, once you buy a new pair of item, like a Zara blouse, it has a whole chain of ownership that it can continue, right? Because I bought that blouse and then I can hand it over to the next person and the next person, and there's a whole value transfer. We had a community of musicians which were actually collaborating around music events, recording studios, events, live events, gigs, and also sharing music. And we had a bunch of other communities. And the Heartmoney, I'll touch about that at the end, but there's something feminine about money, and I want to talk about that when we wrap up. But just to introduce myself, my name is Adi. I've been in the space since late 2011. I was an entrepreneur for lots of years, and I came across Bitcoin, and it totally blew me away. And I started to think about money, and I partnered up with a few good friends, Eyal Herzog and Guy Benalzi, who were actually the founders of Bancor. Has anyone heard about Bancor? Yeah, okay. So I co-founded with them Hackcoin in 2012. And for 4 years, we had this company. We raised $8 million. Everyone was laughing at us. Why do you need more tokens? I mean, even Bitcoin is nothing. And we set out to do that thing. In 2015, we ran out of money, which is kind of funny, you know, because we were creating money, and then we ran out of money, but no one was accepting dollars for employment, so we had to wrap that up. And in 2016, I partnered with Eyal and Guy just to help them out on the project of Bancor's ICO. And it was a very educational experience for me. I was on it for 5 months. In the end, in June 2017, they raised $153 million. It's one of the kind of ICO changing moments, you know, in the landscape for good and for bad. But they're two good people, so I think it's for good. And ever since the end of 2017, I've been helping companies do their token sale events in Israel and abroad, and that's what I've been up to. So there were a few assumptions that I kind of wanted to share with you. And I've been giving these talks for a long time now. Actually, the first Bitcoin talk I ever gave was in 2013. It was a Miss Bitcoin event, Anya, in Israel. Moran Shaket wanted to include more women into the blockchain space. So, you know, there's like-minded people who are always thinking about really how to attract women to this space. And what I talk about a lot is about the history of money and what money is really. And the first assumption that I think that most of us share is that money is not evolving. And my insight was that money is ever evolving. Money is always evolving. And if you think about money, actually as mankind, as an advanced society, we invented 2 protocols in general. We invented language, right? In order for us to share ideas, to share thoughts, to communicate. We're all speaking English now because I do not know German, and this is what enables us to share our thoughts. And we also invented a second protocol. We invented money, and money enables us, as Emily said, to share value. And as you said, Emily, sharing value is very different from sharing thoughts because value needs to have a different ownership. We're transferring ownership from one person to another, whereas with thoughts, we can just duplicate our thoughts. So when we're looking at money, money is not something that, you know, if you show a kid, I asked Anya if I can shock the crowd and bring like a 50-euro bill and set it on fire. And everyone would think I would crazy, and I would say, why? A kid just looks at this, it's just a piece of paper, right? just has 50 on it. It's colorful, and we just set it on fire. You know, it's what adults do on conferences. And then Anya told me, no, in Germany we do not do that in conferences. We have a fire extinguisher, and it's so no setting anything on fire. So I wanted to tear a 50 euro bill up, but then I thought that you would get the idea, and maybe I could get a taxi back to the train. So, but when you look at that piece of paper, when you look at money, it's not, kids do not acknowledge that as anything, right? Money is just a piece of paper. So how is it that we, as adults, we kind of gave all this meaning to money? How did that come about? We weren't born with it. And that's the kind of insight that I wanted to share with you, that money is ever evolving. And the next assumption, which will really lead us into the history of money, is that most people think that money is tangible. Most people say about Bitcoin, I don't believe in Bitcoin. I was on a TV show talking about another passion that I have aside from Bitcoin, which is my movement. I have a 6-hour movement. It's called the 6 Movement, which persuades people why we need to work only 6 hours a day. I have a whole philosophy about it, 6 hours a day. And I was on a TV show, and after I was talking about my 6 hours, there were 2 people on the TV, it was a night show in Israel, and they were talking about Bitcoin. And one was a very established economist, a journalist, that has been, he has a gray hair and everything, and the other was an owner of an exchange called Bits of Gold in Israel. And they were debating about it, and waving hands and everything, that's what we do in Israel. And after that, 5-minute item, he comes out, that journalist, and we had a debate. And I was like the 6-hour girl, what do you know about Bitcoin? But anyhow, we had a debate. It was very masculine and very aggressive. So, and the guy said, the journalist said, I don't believe in Bitcoin. Who do you sue? Who's in charge? I don't believe it. And the thing is about money is that it's not tangible. You don't need to believe in it. You need to understand it. You need to really understand how we got to this stage, but you don't need to believe in anything. Okay, so this is what I want to talk to you about. Money is not tangible. And when we talk about money, I really want us to go back in time and to talk about us as a barter society, because that's where it all started. At the beginning, we were like a tribe, and we would fish, and, carve logs. How do you say when you do that? Get logs, and that is how we would kind of have our own local economy. Maybe it's like a history lesson that most of you know, but I just want to go back because it's fundamentals. I think it's a good place to start, because for me, even if I knew about there was a barter society, I never actually went down memory lane and thought about all the different stuff that we as a community or as a society went through. So we had barter, and then the tribes started to have specialties. So for example, if we really like fish, but we don't live near the ocean, we cannot have fish. But on the other hand, let's just express the fact that we're a village and we're in the woods, so we have woods, they have fish. Let's just, trade fish for wood. So maybe 3 fish, 5 fish, kilogram of fish would be worth 3 logs. And that's how we started to barter. And as time evolved, it's very important to know that a log is not like fish, because, because this is Arnaud, and it's the first time we meet face to face, because we have all these Zoom calls all the time. We work together, so he's from France, I'm from Israel. I'm very excited to have you here. So fish, for example, is, after a day, it starts to stink. You can't put it in your pocket. You need to eat it fast. So it's not a very, very good tool to hold value. Whereas logs are, they weigh a lot, so you can't have that around. Maybe people didn't have wallets back at the time, maybe where they put their sword or whatever, they couldn't put a log. So over time, people started to see that there are other forms of value transfer that began to become more popular. Does anyone know which forms those were? Stones, precious metals, precious pebbles. all sorts of seashells, feathers, and salt. Salt became very popular because salt you could weigh, you could have it like in grains or in grams or in ounces, right? And it was very easy to transfer. And people saw that it was like a common denominator, that you would want salt instead of wanting to go around with the fish and everyone kind of shying away from you. So there started to be like a common denominator. And I think that when we talk about Bitcoin, there are attributes that Bitcoin holds that are like derived from back at the time. So for example, when people say, I want to buy Bitcoin, they think they need to buy 1 unit. No, you don't need to buy 1 unit. You can buy a Satoshi, which is 8 digits after the decimal point. So grains of salt also, you could pick, the fact that we can divide money is very important. The fact that we can transfer money easily is very important. So that was actually back at the time with the salt. And over time, we humans like shiny things, so gold became very popular, and we started trading for gold, and that was the common denominator. And what we saw over time is that there was this, I talk about my talks about this kind of maybe entrepreneur of the town that was looking at all the people like trading with gold, and he was like, wait, maybe we could think about something. Let's just put gold, like take a room, a vault, whatever, let's just put gold there. And all the residents of the town can come to me, I'll weigh your gold, I'll put the gold behind a vault, and I'll give you something that is called an IOU, okay? IOU, and actually maybe I'm a king, maybe I'm like the mayor of the town, maybe I'm someone who's respectable. These were the first bankers, so I'll just give you a note that says an IOU, 2 kilos of gold. And at any time, when you want to conduct a trade, you can just come in, give me that piece of paper, I'll give you your gold, and you can conduct trade. So people started to do that. They had these IOUs, and they would come back and forth to the gold and everything. But then this guy saw that there was another phenomenon going on. People weren't coming back to the vault anymore. They started to trade with that paper, the IOU paper, because they were like, okay, this is anonymous, right? It doesn't have my name on it. It just says that he owes me 2 kilos or 2 grams or 2 ounces of gold. So why don't I give you that? And you'll pass it around, and then it's much easier to pass around a piece of paper. And that is actually how paper money came along. And this, supposedly, the person who became a banker started to say, hold on, I can use that gold to cash out more IOUs. And that is how the fractional reserve concept started, right? I can have 10% in gold, and then have more papers going around at IOUs, because I know that at any given time, there's not more than 10% of the people coming in to claim back their gold. In economic depression times, people do what is called the run on the bank, and then the problem is that there is no money in the bank for everyone. It's like a music chair. So as time went by, the paper money, the U.S. Disconnected from the gold standard, I think officially in 70-something, 71 or 73. I'm looking at ConsenSys here, which is just not at me. But I actually read that back in the 40s, it was already, the gold standard was not formally disconnected. But that means that, I'm sitting like in living rooms with my uncle and everything, and he's talking about the fact that Bitcoin is nothing, and, and cash or US dollar has something behind it. And I'm like saying, yeah, sure. For the past 40 years, it doesn't. 40 years, So, is a truck doing like backing up now or something? Or are we gonna get hit? Okay, I need to speak fast so everyone. So the thing is that it's backed by nothing, and that's why money is not tangible. Money is just something, and I'll share with you that assumption later, but money is just something that goes on in our head. And obviously after paper came credit cards. Could you imagine, like Emily just said, I loved your talk, and could you imagine, like with the moms and the grandmoms and everything, could you imagine when you showed people like a plastic and you said, yeah, that's money now. You know, it's the same, it's an ever-evolving evolution, what we're seeing. Money, so they had the plastic, and then you don't even have to have the cash on you, and now we have all these applications that we can just transfer money, and we have an application called Paybox in Israel, and I persuade all the babysitters of my kids to, you know, I don't have cash, just, you know, take Paybox or whatever. And then obviously we had Bitcoin. So when we look at the evolution that occurred, we're just kind of seeing how money is an application that is ever evolving. It's never, maybe we have decades in which it doesn't change, maybe we have hundreds of years in which it doesn't change, but it is ever evolving. And right now we are on the precipice of the Bitcoin evolution. And Bitcoin takes a lot of the attributes that we were talking about, or the ability to transfer it, to divide it, to become anonymous, if you like, and took that into technology. So that was the second kind of assumption that people have, that money is tangible. It's not. The third assumption is that money is something that is economics. Like when I work on projects, I usually go into the token economic side, and people think that money is about like graphs, Excels, all sorts of exchanges, I don't know, like tick data, whatever, all these graphs going up and down. But when you think about money, it's not about economics, it's about psychology. It's only about psychology, because at one point in time money could have value, and then in another point in time it's like totally worthless, and people are using it as their wallpaper, right? And when we look at building economies, we need to think about the people and how they think about money. And when we talk about Bitcoin, we need to think about how can we change the conscious of people in regards to what Bitcoin is. Because even for us, when we started out thinking about Bitcoin, we didn't think about money, as I said. We never thought about what it was, we just used it. And when you do learn about money, and you learn about the fact that it's not backed by anything, when you learn about the fact that it's, you know, it's just a consensus, just an understanding that we have amongst ourselves, then you understand that it's all about psychology. And that people really, we need to understand what makes people want to interact, and which interactions we want to interact. In addition, I think that just as we had the, as Emily stated, we had the information revolution in which we shared knowledge, and we saw suddenly that, you know, YouTubers who are talking about, I don't know, how to make like a sticky thing that sticks on a wall, you know, they, like in Israel, they would never show that on national TV, but there are millions of people who are actually looking at that, the long tail. Then, as we're seeing more expressions of how can we express ourselves through blogs or YouTube videos or talks or WhatsApp or Telegram, right? What's the difference between WhatsApp or Telegram? Does anyone know? In Telegram, you can edit your spelling mistakes. And in WhatsApp, you can't. You need to put an asterisk. And I always have spelling mistakes, so that's no, but it's also the fact about your privacy and everything. And the same goes for money. People were talking to us in 2013 about, why do you need more money? I mean, today Bitcoin maximalists are saying, why do you need more money? You know, there's Bitcoin. You don't need more crypto. They call it shit coins. And I agree that there are shit coins, but there are other forms of expression that we can express ourselves. There are forms of expression between neighbors, between friends, between students in a school, between cities. And these forms of expression need to have some sort of a coin for them. I think I'm heavily persuaded by Emily, and I kind of rushed through it, so I'll just go back to the hearts. When we were talking about the hearts, when we were seeing the hearts, what we saw is an evolution in the way that people connected to each other. So at the beginning, the hearts, the mothers, were just, you know, strangers on a Facebook group which shared their ideas. And then they were a group of strangers who started to transfer goods and services. So on the very, very shallow layer, you had moms which would say that, they get good stuff, they get books and everything, and they don't need to use their fiat currency. So, for example, if their fiat currency, most of the families in Israel, their money is used to pay rent and kindergarten tuition and electricity and taxes. And suddenly, these families, led by the moms, it was actually a very feminist group, because the moms are the decision makers of a family in regards to the spending in Israel, at least. And what we saw is that they were kind of exposed to abundance suddenly. And that abundance is because we didn't want to take money and form it into something that is created by debt, right? Money today is created by debt. Each time like a married couple wants to get a mortgage from the bank, we want to get how do you say a loan, thank you, then there's debt. And in this system, we're seeing the debt rise. I'm always I'm looking at the trillions and millions and trillions that the U.S. owns someone, and I'm like, why do we owe any? Who owns who? I mean, what is this debt system? So when we looked at our system in AppCoin, we were talking about the fact that maybe money could be created out of a do-good event. A do-good event, right? It's not debt, it's something that you give to the community. Because money is a form of transferring energy. Just like when you have, do you know the solar panels, right? That we put on our rooftops, right? Then the energy of the sun, hits the earth all the time. But when we do have the solar panels, in order to capture that energy, we can extract and exchange that energy into something else. And the same goes with money. Money is just a transparent container of nothing. And once we give value to it, then it needs to store that value and hold it over time. So what we saw with the moms is that suddenly they realized their skills. They were like, okay, I don't have any stuff to sell, but which skills do I have? Maybe I'm good at cooking. Maybe I'm good at doing all these do-it-yourself hacks. And what we saw is when you think about money, not as money as debt, but you think about money as something that is created in order to facilitate the exchange of value, the exchange of energy between people, then actually there's a lot, it's very empowering to people. So what we saw is that they came about from thinking about it as funny money to thinking about it as just a way to exchange goods and services, but then you can just exchange, you can just say hearts is dollars, hearts is euros. That is not an added value if you're just acknowledging, hearts as dollars, right? But then when you're actually looking at this and you're saying, okay, what can I contribute to this community, then the real aha moment happens. Because today in our society, when you don't have money, you need to go and help me out with this word, to get donations, right? To get hand-me-downs. And there's something very, very kind of a hierarchy going on in our society. It's not very equal for everyone, because I'm very talented, but I happen to not have dollars in my pocket. What does that mean? That I have no contribution to the society? And then when you have, when you have people who don't need donations, who are saying, okay, we're part of this economy, this hard economy. We can make something. I can recycle things. We had a mom, for example, she was 7 months pregnant, and she wanted to decorate her daughter's room, and she had no money. So she started doing the do-it-yourself. She had the coffee, tea, sugar thing. She started to doing all these jewelry, and she decorated her whole daughter's room, from the bed to the curtains to everything. And for her, it was a matter of really, again, gaining a lot of confidence in her. And she could choose stuff. When people donate to you, you can't choose. It's just what people donate to. She could actually choose amongst 17,000 listings. We had another mom who was a lawyer, and she really liked to bake cakes and she liked to decorate them. but she had no clients. Who would want, someone who has no portfolio or no pictures of cakes to do your birthday cake for you? So she started offering her services on Mama's Own Market. And, it was for hearts. So people were like, yeah, we have hearts. Like, hearts is an abundant currency. We were looking at all the stuff that we have at home. We can give it away. We can sell it on, all sorts of Craigslist and stuff like that. But there are a certain category of items in which you will not let strangers into your house, right? Like children's books. Am I going to sell children's books on Craigslist? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe a car. But you don't want to interact with strangers. It's like too much hassle. And this mom, she was starting to do all these birthday cakes. And she only took the fiat currency for the ingredients, but the hearts was for her labor. And she started to have all these cakes and everything. She opened up a Facebook page. She had a lot of testimonials of clients. And that was another way for her to transition and define her true value. We had 2 other moms who were very active in their local community. And they started to organize all sorts of offline events in the municipality infrastructure, all sorts of buildings and everything. And they would have all these children events and everything, and moms would be able to see each other and to form a community, to form real transactions between human beings, not only as people who are transferring goods and services, but as part of a community who share a value, and that value is to empower families, to help them. In 2008 in Israel, we had a big strike. Like 1 million people went out to the streets out of the 8 million. And people were living in tents on one of the main streets in Tel Aviv because people were acknowledging the fact that they just can't, they can't live anymore like that. They're totally struggling. They're working all their awake hours and they can't make, a sustainable income. And suddenly these moms were able to contribute a huge amount to not only in fiat currency, obviously, with that they're working, but also with these hearts. And what they learned from not acknowledging it to just saying, okay, we're just going to buy books and everything, is that the power of community, we as a society can really help each other out if we just have the tool to do so. I have a friend of mine who's a blogger, and he always gives the following example. He says, listen, money is a tool for collaboration. Just like centimeters is a tool for measuring length. Money is a tool for measuring a value of a certain product. And he said that imagine if an architect would come to plan your house and build your house and whatever, and you have all the infrastructure, all the material you need to build the house, all the employees, the construction workers and everything, but then that person, the architect, will say, hold on, we do not have enough centimeters in the world. We ran out of them. That is absurd, isn't it? Same goes for money. What do we mean by the fact that we don't have enough money? Why have we architected a system in which we don't have enough money, or we have so much debt? What is that all about? All we want to do is interact with each other, just like we're speaking. Oh, no, I'm sorry, I don't have enough words. We can't continue the conversation. That is how absurd the situation is. And we understood after Bitcoin that if we don't have enough money to collaborate and to realize the potential of us as a society, we will make it up. We will create money. And that is what Bitcoin did on a very good extent, because Bitcoin, the way the blockchain, they introduced the blockchain, the way the minting and the mining of the money works is a trustless trust environment. So if we had to have trust back in the barter days in that guy who gave us an IOU, now we don't need that trust anymore. We have that with the technology. And we had that technology for a long time now. We needed Bitcoin in order to remind us that that is possible. Another thought about blockchain and Bitcoin is that the fact that blockchain, I talk with Arnaud about this all the time, but the fact that blockchain enables parties who do not have an alignment of interests to work together is an amazing, amazing accomplishment of Bitcoin. What do I mean by that? All the miners in Bitcoin, they are competing against each other. So with Bitcoin's protocol, what they did is they took a kind of a dog-eat-dog. Is there a saying in there, or I just made it up? It's just when people are like, they only think about themselves and very selfish, we're very competitive, we have to, we have limited resources, so we have to compete. And Bitcoin took that human attribute and made it to work for the benefit of the good, because once miners compete over something, what they're actually doing is they're securing the transactions in a block, and they're actually securing all these this decentralized infrastructure. So when we build token economies, we should assume the worst out of people, but then see how we can align the interest by putting in that token in order for everyone to want to work together. For example, there's this nice science blockchain project in Israel that they're taking the conflict alignment of interests between universities. Universities are walled gardens, right? Each have like a competition to be with the most budget and the most research and everything. So they're doing an alignment between universities, between individual labs, between lab people, researchers, and between companies like Johnson & Johnson and the likes. And they're doing a science blockchain because what they're saying is the following. In the academy world, academia is where research occurs. It's where the big scientific breakthroughs occur. And what they're saying is that in the academia today, you have to publish in either two places. You either file for a patent, or you publish in a big magazine. That is the only thing that you do. And actually researchers, because they know this, they're thinking about, okay, which research will I do in order for it to get published? How centralized is that? And instead, with the science blockchain, what they're doing is they're saying, listen, there's so much research, and they're in the material space. There's so much research that is just, never sees the light of day because someone wanted to, for example, to create a paper cover that is pink, and instead it became brown, so they just discard the whole experiment. But on the other side of the world, someone is trying to create a brown paper cover and it's pink, and he discarded that. So what if we take all that information, which is raw information, no one cares about it, we'll just put it on the blockchain, we'll make sure to have like a validation, a quality validation process. And then people from all over, researchers, universities and the likes, will be able to search for certain attributes of materials, get like metadata, and then they'll have a business model in order to actually buy that data in order to progress with their research. They may gain maybe like 4,000 hours worth of years of experiments. And that's the kind of thing that we're seeing with blockchain technology. Another thing that we're seeing, for example, a company that wants to do video sharing. So think about it. There's all these, there's a guy in Israel, he's called Kutiman, I don't know if you know of him, but he looks at all these different YouTube artists and he compiles them together. So there's one artist who's like playing the piano, the other is playing the guitar, and he just compiles everything together into a very cool like soundtrack. And he's kind enough to put like all the credits to all the original artists. But what if we had a business model that enabled all those contributors to just see a fraction of what YouTube is paying this artist? So we have a decentralized paying system in which people, all these artists, can maybe gain a cent or 2 cents or 5 cents or 10 tokens or 20 tokens or whatever for their work and for the aggregated work of the whole. So these are the things that we as a society are seeing evolve because we don't share that concept anymore of the fact that money is something that we compete on, but rather money is something that we all need to share together. Arnaud, for example, may I use your example? Okay. Arnaud, for example, is setting up something very, I told Emily that you guys need to connect, but it's to train kids financial literacy Think about kids, the fact that I just said that kids, you know, they look at the piece of paper, they have no idea what it is, but then very quickly they understand that they can unlock a lot of candy using that piece of paper. They're fast learners. So Arnaud set out with the Give Foundation to enable kids to gain financial literacy by actually giving kids money. Why don't we give kids money today? Because today money is tainted. Today money is out of debt. It's not something that we can control. But when we do know how to align the interests of the parents who want to monitor what their kids are doing, I'm talking about like 8-year-old kids, 10, 15-year-old kids, and the kids' wants and needs, and the schools, and the third parties that are actually part of this ecosystem. So for example, in the Give Foundation, they want kids to have health checkups. How uncool is that? You know, you need to go into this place in school and have a health checkup. I mean, you know, you probably don't want anyone to see you that you're doing that if you're already a teenager. And now you're able to do that with a token because you get incentivized for doing a health checkup. When we were in Israel in 2013, when we had Girim, which was the chalk token, we would see students earn chalk by going out to a charity, to like an SOS for pets, taking the dog out for 35 chalk. So what we would do is we would set up a foundation and we would say, okay, there's a certain amount, there's like a mathematical equation in which a certain amount of chalk would go to that foundation, and the foundation would be able to spread across the 72 charities that we had all around Israel in order for them to be able to pay the kids. And when we went through schools, financial literacy, talking about that, then one of the students raised their hands and said, what? We'll get money for something that we need to volunteer for? That's all wrong. You know, he was saying, we need to volunteer, we don't need to get an incentive by money for taking out a dog. And we were like, no, you got it all wrong. The fact that today people need to volunteer for charities is because charities don't have money. These people who are doing good in our society don't have money. And we need to be, as a society, to have a tool in order for us to incentivize people and charities to be able to do the good that they want. And that's how we set it up with the foundation. So all these things, all these examples, I saw the future. It was 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015. And I think that today, when we talk about Bitcoin or crypto, it's always about, price volatility and secondary markets, and blockchain is just a database. But I truly, I'm speaking, from the bottom of my heart, I truly think that we can unlock the potential of us as a society, that money is a tool for collaboration, that money is a tool in order to extract value. What is my skill to the world? I want to share that with you, and you guys can share your skill back with me. And I think that above all, this is the cake that you've been seeing for maybe it's lunchtime, I don't know, but above all, when we have this ability, this technology today for us to create money, we need to expand the pie. We need to reach a level in which we have abundance. Because there's 22-year-old Italians who are unemployed, and they have their energy, they have their power. Why are they unemployed? Because of the ledger system that we're working on. Why not enlarge the piece of the cake and enable us all to have true abundance? So this is what I really, really urge you, like when we're talking about crypto for the whole 2 days, to just think about money as a tool, as centimeters that quantifies how we can collaborate with each other. Let me just look at the time for a second. Yeah, 8 minutes. So I just want to say a word about women in blockchain. So I've been in the space for a few years now, and as I said, in 2013 we were talking about Miss Bitcoin. I think that there was this thread on Facebook a few days ago in one of the Bitcoin groups, and one woman said, listen, you know what, with the crypto industry, the blockchain industry, I don't feel that there's the same kind of mansplaining, the same kind of inequality between men and women, not in number, but in quality, okay? And I think it's because of the fact that whoever is still in blockchain and interested in crypto nowadays, we're all passionate about something that is going to happen. We're all passionate about building the future of our society. And when people are passionate, it doesn't even matter, if they're men or women. It shouldn't matter if they're not passionate, right? But in this sense, when we talk about it, I think that is the reason. But because most of the time, like from 2011, when I give a talk, I was like, I'm not going to explain mining. I don't want to go into technical explaining because I want to talk about the essence. And I think that when women speak about money, I don't want to make an inclusion here. It's not, when I speak about money, I speak about the feminine side of it. I speak about something else, something that is more inspiring for us as a society. And I believe that as more women express their voices, we will be able to build economic models and innovative kind of revenue models that maybe won't go from debt, but will bring in something else. So that is a place in which I urge women to take part in this. I think that we have a lot to bring to the table, and it's not necessary, it doesn't necessarily need to be technical, it can be technical, but money, as I said, is more psychological. So I really hope you enjoyed the talk. I'll be here today, tomorrow I fly out. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much for a great talk. Do anyone have any questions?
That's just my Telegram if anyone wants to be in contact with me. I don't have business cards, I'm paperless.
Hi. My question is the Heartmoney. Did you issue that, or so it was still a centralized issued money? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. We weren't, it was 2011, and we didn't get it. We didn't understand the whole concept of blockchain, and I think that looking retroactively, in retrospect, it was just a prototype. But the major problem of it is that it's centralized. For example, with the moms, they wanted to incentivize people to be on the platform, so they gave away like hearts for someone writing like a Wikipedia entry. They gave 1,000 hearts, and then they gave it 800 hearts for whoever who edited the Wikipedia entry. So you can just edit a word and get 800. So what we're seeing is that when you have a centralized system, human error or human personality and greed will get in the way. And I think that today we're seeing lots of other blockchain-based projects that are taking the society just like Give or any other and putting it on the blockchain so it's transparent and immutable. And I think that part of the problem with ICOs, in my own personal opinion, is that once you issue the money in advance, so all the ICOs are saying we're going to issue 1 trillion coins, then the ownership already occurred, and then there's a transfer of ownership, and that's a big problem. Whereas with Bitcoin, it's just mined out of thin air every 10 minutes, and that is a very, very important aspect to think about, because centralization is always a bad thing, and we need to use this technology in order to make sure that we don't have that hurdle in our way.
So probably that's it. Thank you very much one more time. Thank you.